A warm welcome. You're tuned into Eye on Africa. I'm Rochelle Ferguson-Buyahi. These are the top stories. Continue the long walk at which Nelson Mandela began. The words of Cyril Ramaphosa as he delivered his first State of the Nation speech this Friday. We cross to our correspondent Aisha Ismail for reactions from Cape Town. No sign of abating. Refugees fleeing violence in DR Congo continue pouring into neighbouring Uganda. The UN estimates some 30,000 Congolese refugees have crossed the lake since the start of 2018 alone. And if we say Carnival, you probably say Rio or Notting Hill. But coming up in the programme, we explore celebrations on the Cape Verde Islands. But first, Cyril Ramaphosa has spoken of a new dawn for South Africa in his first State of the Nation address this Friday. Addressing Parliament, the country's new leader touched on unemployment, poverty, race and urged South Africans to, quote, turn the tide on corruption. Well, Ramaphosa took over the reins of the country on Thursday after a dramatic week which saw his embattled predecessor, Jacob Zuma, stand down. Here's Ramaphosa speaking earlier.
I do wish we should put behind us the era of diminishing trust in public institutions and weakened confidence in our country's public leaders. We should put all the negativity that has dogged our country behind us, because a new dawn is upon us and a wonderful dawn has arrived.
Well, let's get you some reactions on this. France 24's Aisha Ismail is standing by in Cape Town. We can cross live to her. Aisha, we just had a snippet of Ramaphosa speaking there. Talk us through, if you will, the main points of his speech today.
Well, the new president certainly hit all the right notes. He focused on economic growth, job creation, free higher education, unity, and bringing an end to corruption. Now, he said the country was seeing a new dawn and he urged South Africans to seize the moment. And he said South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And he said that they should all work together so that everybody can have a better life. And while speaking about unity, he switched to Afrikaans, which would certainly make the Afrikaner minority very happy, because they've been complaining that their language is under threat. And while the opposition parties welcomed his speech and what he had to say tonight, they said that they would be watching him very carefully and keeping him on his toes.
All right, so as you say there, Aisha, he's clearly hitting the right notes with some of the stuff that he had to say tonight. In terms of reactions, how was Ramaphosa's speech gone down?
Well, some of the opposition parties that I spoke to said they were cautiously optimistic. And a lot of them said that they would like to see him shrink his bloated cabinet created by President Jacob Zuma in order to give taxpayers some form of relief, because South Africa does have a very strong opposition. And as I said earlier, they said that they would be keeping him on his toes and they were hoping that he would stick to the promises that he made in his first State of the Nation address tonight.
Aisha Ismail reporting for us from Cape Town. Thank you. In Uganda, the flow of refugees fleeing violence in neighbouring DR Congo shows little sign of abating. The UN estimates that some 34,000 Congolese refugees have arrived since the start of 2018. Well, they're escaping from an inter-ethnic conflict in Uturu, Tyresbrook and Gren Harrington report from Uganda.
Beyond the horizon is the DRC. It's an 8-hour boat journey for these refugees to cross over to the Ugandan shore of Lake Albert. They're exhausted, but relieved to have reached safety.
I'm happy to be here. It's a relief. Back there we had nothing left to eat. The conditions were unlivable.
As soon as they arrive, they sell their livestock to pay for the cost of the crossing. In less than 2 weeks, more than 22,000 have made this journey. Their stories are the same. They're fleeing ethnic violence in the Congolese province of Ituri. Grace is from the Bagagere tribe, and it's not the first time she's fled the deadly raids of the Lendu.
It's the 5th time I've had to flee the Congo to come here, and it's always because of the Lendu. And our friends, our parents, everyone has had to flee and hide in the bush because of them.
According to local reports, members of the Lendu ethnic group are attacking villages one by one, armed with axes and machetes.
So it's a tribal clash, but they say the clash was brought by fights and struggling for fishing grounds and land-related issues.
The UN says 30 people have already died. The first waves of refugees were fleeing imminent danger, but now they're already arriving with injuries. Innocent Busa was attacked with a machete.
They caught me and they struck me on the arm with a machete. Look, but by some miracle I managed to escape.
Like many others here, Innocent has no intention of returning to Congo. After many hours of waiting, new arrivals board this bus to a refugee camp, where they'll start to build a new home.
Now, a day after the surprise resignation of Ethiopia's Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn, officials have declared a national state of emergency. The announcement by the state broadcaster said the move was needed to maintain order amid ongoing anti-government protests. Ethiopia's last state of emergency in 2016 failed to halt those demonstrations. The opposition has criticised today's decision. Have a listen.
It is not the good news for all of us, and we expect more crisis because of the state of emergency. I don't think it's going to solve anything about the political crisis of this country. For the opposition, it's no good news.
Protesters took to the streets in DR Congo's eastern city of Bukavu this Friday as anger mounts over 3 people killed there on Thursday. Well, civil society groups say this year, so far at least 30 people have been killed. Militia violence has escalated in the east since 2016, where President Joseph Kabila failed to step down despite the end of his term in office.
Roadblocks, looting, but more than anything, a feeling of anger and desertion by the authorities. These people in the city of Bukavu on the eastern border of the Democratic Republic of Congo are fed up. On Friday, they protested violently against the death of 3 people murdered in different areas of the city this week.
We demand that the government resign. They are a mediocre government. People are dying here, every day.
Insecurity is growing. Every day people are killed. This happens in front of the police headquarters. We haven't seen the authorities act at all.
They need to tell us how you can kill people freely when there are police just a few steps away. Instead of killing the bandits, the police attack us. They attack citizens.
The protesters carried the bodies of the victims to the governor's headquarters, but they were turned away and clashes erupted with the police. Security throughout the RDC has been deteriorating ever since President Joseph Kabila refused to step down in 2016. The former military general has been in power since 2001 after his father, who was also president, was assassinated. Now, armed groups are taking the law into their own hands. Many fear return to the deadly civil war, which cost hundreds of thousands of lives at the turn of the century when Kabila became president.
Now, when you hear the word Carnival, you probably instinctively think of Rio, Venice or even Notting Hill. But are you familiar with the Carnival on the Cape Verde Islands? Well, the annual event is also known as the Creole Festival. Streets are packed with revellers and the atmosphere is electric. Jerome Garrow and Kwame Indri sent us this report.
Night falls and streets come alive. Extravagant and euphoric crowds parade through Praia in costumes, many traditionally festooned in bones and feathers.
It's a Cape Verdean and African celebration. It feels amazing. Even if you're not part of the show, I try to come every year.
We come as a family. I'm with my older brother and we both enjoy it. Every year the carnival gets better and better.
A celebration that tries to stay true to its roots.
It's symbolic of the history of the country, slavery that people here had to endure 500 years ago. It is a way of telling the public, and especially the children, that our ancestors were sold by the Portuguese in Brazil, in America, and elsewhere in the world.
A former Portuguese colony, Cape Verde, has a shared history with Brazil. They have similar music and dances. Brazilian samba has its roots in West African culture and religious traditions. And much like in Rio, Samba schools in Cape Verde compete fiercely to win first prize at the Carnival.
Our ancestors copied the Brazil Carnival and introduced it to the neighboring island of São Vicente. And we, residents of Praia, in turn copied the Carnival of São Vicente. This year has been very successful.
The lavish days of celebration usually fall in February, about 40 days before Easter on the Catholic calendar. And here in Cape Verde, locals and visitors alike let loose during the all-night public parties.
So now you know there is a carnival on the Cape Verde Islands. You're very much up to date with Eye on Africa. Your team will be back in about 40 minutes' time. Coming up now, though, Rochelle Harrison-Pless is here. She'll have more international headlines. Do stay tuned. You're watching France 24.